Hello everybody, welcome to my first UEFN tutorial. Today I am going to be walking you through on how to create your own Fortnite Chapter 1 material for use in your own UEFN maps. We will be completely validating the material and doing all of the foliage. This may end up being a multi-part series. And the first thing we're going to start off with today is we're going to be setting up our file structure. So the first folder we are going to create is our Athena folder, as that is the codename for the Fortnite Chapter 1 island. We're going to be getting our environments folder and then a landscape folder within that. Now we are going to need multiple folders here. We're going to need material functions, material, and I believe textures is in here as well. Yes, it is. We have textures in here. We will need another one called NPC. There we go. And I believe one more folder we will need is foliage in here. Next we can go into material functions and we will need a couple. Now this material is going to be for Season 3. I will make follow-up videos on how to upgrade them. So if you want a different season than Season 3, there will be a follow-up video somewhere in the future of how to upgrade the material. Utilities, and I believe that is primary is all we need for now. So the first thing we're going to do is come back in here. Now I'm going to be using a tool called F-model, so I can get the textures that we are going to need. Let me just find it here. So you're going to be using this tool called F-model. And here it is. So the first thing you're going to want to do is come up here and go to directory and then selector. For me, I already have it in here. You're going to want to come down here and selecting your Fortnite version that you are going to be recreating from. So you'll need a Fortnite build. I have Fortnite Season 3 build 3.5. You can give it a name here and put the directory of this packs folder. It generally has this directory here. And the Unreal Engine version for Season 3, I believe all Season 3 builds, is 4.19, so that is what I have selected here. And F-model will reload. Now you will need to come into directory again and select this AES section, and depending on the build you will need an AES key. I will leave a link to both the build downloads and the AES keys in the description of this video. So what we are going to do now is we're going to come down here to Fortnite game, content, Athena, environments, landscape, and then textures here. So this has all the textures that we are going to need. So we are going to right click on here and we're going to click save folders, packages, textures, which is going to give us all of the textures for that one folder that we have there. And we can click here, it will bring up this. We go to Fortnite game, content, Athena, environments, landscape, textures. I'm going to re-export mine because I had some other textures in here already. Just let me try it. So you have an empty folder like this. You right click, save textures, as I did before. I had just used a different build beforehand, and we now have all of the textures for this folder here. So we can minimize F-model as we're not going to need it again for a little bit, and we can come into textures here. We can grab our textures, highlight them all, and drag them into UEFN here. And now we've got the primary textures that we will need. There are some other textures that we will need, and we will find those. The first thing I believe we are going to start with today is the material function for the grass. So we are going to need some other material functions, well, one other material function beforehand. So let me just find the directory for that. I have it here somewhere. Here. So it's just in the material functions folder here. So we'll go into here, material, advanced material function. Now the name for this is mf underscore landscape underscore grass distance blend. Now we'll open this up here. We will start off with just a result. The first thing we are going to do is rename this to grass RGB, not GPR. Grass RGB. So the first thing that we are going to want to do is oh, hold on, actually there is one other material function that we need to do first, so excuse my problem there. So the first one we want is actually, where is it? Another material function. So this is mf underscore terrain distance fade. It's just like that's my phone. Let me just put that into do not disturb. Yeah, we want terrain distance fade here. Now, the first thing we are going to want to do is leave that there. We want world position, and then we want a distance node here. So we're going to put the XYZ in here. We're going to grab camera position here, camera position WS, and a selector. We're going to plug that into distance here. We're going to grab a subtract. Oh, sorry, that is the wrong thing. We're going to grab a subtract node and plug that into here. We are going to get a scalar value by pressing 1 on our keyboard and clicking here. That will be plugged in here, and this value will be 5,000. And then we're going to get a divide by pressing D on the keyboard and clicking down. We are going to want an input here, a function input, and it's going to be called distance. So we've got a, we want to change it from a vector 3 to a scalar here. We plug that in up here, and we're going to get another one of those scalar values here for the preview, which will be 55,000 here, and then we will get a clamp right at the end here and plug in our divide for our result. Let's move this up here. And now we can save this function, and we can move on to our grass distance blend function up here. So the first thing we want to do for this is, after we've renamed this, we want to get another output, another function output. This one will be called distant. Can I spell? Distant grass RGB. So what this function essentially does is it makes it so the grass looks bigger from a distance, just so it doesn't look as tileable as just a texture. So the first thing we're going to grab is, again, just like the last function, is a world position, but we can come into the settings here and we're going to exclude the material offsets. Okay, we're going to come here and we're going to search away component mask here and leave this on the settings of R and G. We're going to grab another divide node up here and plug in this to A. We're going to get another scalar value of 700 to be plugged into B, and this can be outputted here as the grass scale. Just hide that there. We're going to want another divide for this to come down into here, this time with B being a value of 3000. And then we are going to want to get a vertex interpolator out of both of these, and then we want a switch, no, not that, sorry, static switch. Yeah, we're going to want two of these. The vertex interpolator will be plugged into true for both of them, and the divide nodes, and on this case the grass scale will be plugged into false. So we're going to want to come down here, we want another input function input called use vertex interp. It's going to be, if we come down into a static boolean, so we're going to get a static bool here and leave it false for now, and plug that into both of these switches here. The next thing we're going to want to do is grab a texture sample here and convert this to a parameter and call it grass, and the first one here will be plugged in here, and we can just do Control D to duplicate this and plug it straight in here, since they will both be they will both be by default the same texture because they are the same parameter. You're going to want to next come into here and search for our Athena grass farm color matched. For that, now that is on both of them. What I would like to do next is we are going to come down here and we're going to grab two scalar values here and set the first one to 55,000 and the second to 45,000, and we're going to search for a quality switch by plugging the default high and medium ones with the top value and the low into this one here. And we're going to next get a feature level switch, plug that into the default there and into the bottom three, so SM4, SM5 and SM6. We're going to grab this 45,000 and plug that into ES2 and ES3_1. Move that there. The next thing I want to do is come and search for a material function call. By default, if you have it selected here, the terrain distance fade will pop up, and that is what we need. And we're going to plug our feature level switch into the distance and leave that there for a minute. We'll put it up by here. The next thing we are going to want to do is get two linear interpolate nodes, also known as a lerp. I want two of these. The first one up here will be the RGB of this one and this one, with the alpha of the distance fade. Let's move those across there. This one here will be the alpha of both textures, again with an alpha node of alpha. alpha being plugged in with the terrain distance fade. And then we can grab our grass RGB in here. There are some other settings in this function which are not used, so we will be skipping over them. And the distant grass RGB. Oh no, sorry, I have plugged in the wrong thing here, actually. We want to come down here with this one and search for an output. And this one will be called grass A. The distant grass RGB will be, let's see, just the RGB off of this grass texture here. And this is our grass distance blend. I will just show it here for a couple of seconds, just in case anybody has made any mistakes, so they can go and check over. Alrighty then, now we can save this, and we can move into our, I believe, standard folder. To our standard folder, and create a new material function called mf_Athena _grass_01. Now the first thing we are going to do is create 3 new outputs. So we'll have result, and now this one will be base color _plane. Leave this over here by the result, and we will need another output called height. So we were going to create a make material attribute really quickly, as that will be plugging into our result, and just plug in this height into opacity. Now the next thing we're going to do is another function call. It will pop up with that if you haven't deselected this in here. We cannot call the same function from inside a function. We're going to come in here and we're going to search for our grass distance blend. Now grass A will be plugged into height. I believe grass RGB plugs into base color. Hold up, we have made a mistake in our grass distance blend. We need to make it so the preview value is used, and I believe we need to do that in here as well for this one here. There we go. Quickly save those, and now it works all fine. The next thing we're going to do is our specular. Oh, actually, I believe grass RGB comes into the base color plane over here, actually. Yeah. But yeah, we are going to quickly do our specular. So we are going to come and get a lerp node, which will be plugged into specular. Leaving this value here at 0, we're going to get a scalar at 0.1 and plug that into B. And then we are going to do power here, get a bit of power, plug that into the alpha with the base of 0.2. There. Next is the roughness. We're going to get a scalar value and put it at 0.95. And we are almost done. Next is the normal, and says now we're going to need to come back into F model, come up to packages here, or hit Control Shift F and go to search. So we're going to search for grassland _n, or grasslands _n here. So this is the texture we're going to want here. And now while we are in this folder, there are some others. So we'll right click on this after we've double clicked here and save the image. We're going to want cave exterior wall here. We're going to want all 3 of those values. Let me see if there is any others that we are going to need in here. Let me just check through some of these. I believe that those are the only ones we will need for now. So they will appear in a folder if you click on them here. So the ones we have selected are these 4. I have others from a different version of the game, which we do not currently need. So what we're going to do is come back into here. We're going to go back to our main project name. For me it's Athena Tutorial. We're going to come and create a new folder called Packages. And then in that folder we're going to create another folder called ds_Fortnite_terrain _no LOD. No. We're going to come in here and drag in the 4 textures that we just exported and save those here. So now we'll come back into our grass function and get a texture sample. I'm going to convert it to a parameter and call it grass normal. I'm going to come and search for grass lands n, plug this into the normal, and it will look odd at first, and we'll get our grass scale here and plug it into the UVs. And there we go. That is our grass material function, I believe, all done. Now we can save that. Okay, so the next material function that I think we will do is the rock function. Which may be slightly complicated, but we should be okay. So let's create a new material function. mf_Athena _rock_01. The O1 is on a lot of these material functions. It is not anything really to it. So we're just going to leave our result here for a minute. We're going to create some more outputs. So let's see, we are going to want an output for rock_base color, an output for is the one we're going to want to start previewing, and then the result is there. So we're going to leave all of these here for now, and we will come back to them later. So we're going to come over here. We're going to search for a texture object here. We're going to get a texture object, and the texture that we're going to put in that is cave exterior wall D. Okay. Now this material function is going to be slightly different to what it's supposed to be, as I do mine slightly different than normal, but it will still be the same look. It won't make a difference. So actually, before we can do this, we are going to need to do another material function, mf_Athena_gravel_01, which means we are going to have to quickly go and find another texture, but that is no problem as we've got F model here. So we'll go back into our search here, and we're going to search for white rock custom. We're going to want just the diffuse for now, the _D1, and we'll just right click save image. Again, I have other textures in this folder because I have done other ones. Yours will look like this. That'll be up here. So going to come back in here. We're going to need to go back into our packages folder and make a new folder in here called ds_Fortnite with a G. I don't know why it's called this, but it is. I'll just drag this in here. We do not currently need a normal texture for this, so we are all good. So in this, we're going to want to quickly get a texture coordinate, and then we're going to want some input. Again, we want to use preview value, and it's going to be called chords, and it's going to be set as a vector2 parameter. Not parameter, input. Sorry. We're going to want to then bring this out with a texture sample with our white rock custom in it, which we are then going to want to put into a multiply. I'm going to grab an input again. Sorry, this will be a vector3. Just hit this arrow up here, and it will be called. Well, we'll use the preview value, and it will be called color tint. I'll plug that into B, and the default for that is going to be 0.8. Just like that. And then we'll want a make material attributes here. I'm going to quickly get another output here. This will be used when we do other seasons. We're going to get base color, and then that will go into the base color node there, and that will plug into the output. So it's quite shiny at the minute. So we're going to try this out a bit more here. We're going to get two of these, two scalar parameters or values. First one is 0.2, second one is 1, and these will plug into specular and roughness. And then we will drag out the alpha of this texture here, and we'll get another output here, function output, called height, and that will then plug into opacity, just like that. And then this function is done. You can save that. We can come back to the rock function now. So the first thing we want to do is get world aligned texture here, the texture object being our rock texture object here. We'll make a scalar value here for our texture size, which is going to be, this is quite long-winded, so I'm going to copy and paste this into mine. 1304.966064, and then we're going to get a static boolean here as true for export float 4, and we're going to get a project transition contrast of a value of 10 here. And up above this here, we're going to go and get a function call for our gravel function, which is why we needed it before. We're going to get landscape layer chords here really quickly. We're going to set this as, on the mapping scale, as 4, and plug it into chords. And now we're going to get an append vector and plug in the base color, I believe, and height, like that, respectively. No, sorry, other way around. So like this. We're going to get a multiply here, and it's going to be multiplied by a value of 1.75, like so. And then we're going to get a lerp node here, linear interpolate, with the XY texture in A, and this multiply down into B. Now, for the alpha, we're going to come down here and search for vertex normal WS right here. That's going to go into a multiply, with a value here of 0.725. That is then going to get a component mask here of just the blue channel. I'll change the settings here to mask B. We're going to then make that an absolute, and then we're going to search for cheap contrast here, plug the absolute in here, and the contrast will be, use this here, a 10. Then we're going to get another mask, another component mask, this time just red, and that will be plugging into our alpha here. Now we can preview this, and you can see this is somewhat here what gets the gravel at the top. It's not completely finished yet, so it still looks somewhat weird. Now, this comes into a divide here, divided by 1.25 in the bottom half here. So I believe if we preview this one, no, never mind. So now this is going to come down. Okay, so we're going to quickly create a lerp here. This will come down to the A. We're going to leave that there for a minute. And we're going to quickly just drag out this texture object to about here. And we're going to highlight all of this, press C for our comment, and it's going to be smaller rock plus gravel after spots. Okay, so next we're going to come down here, we're going to quickly get another world aligned texture. Now we're going to plug in the same texture object here. What I'm going to do is if I double click on the line here, I can create a reroute which will make it more tidy. We're going to again get a value here. We're going to put it down here because we are actually quickly. If I grab it now, we're going to want a world line normal down here. Texture size will be the same for both of them, which is going to be 4500. Now I'm going to quickly, okay, so we're going to want a static boolean here of true again for export float 4. We're going to get another value here of 10 for the projection transition contrast, although for here we're going to get a 1 minus here before we plug that in. We are also going to get another texture object. We're going to search for, again, if we search for cave exterior wall normal this time, and plug that into here. Now, for this lerp we created here, the XY texture plugs into the B. Just move that down here. And we have to create the alpha still for that. Now we are going to need another lerp which you can create by pressing L on your keyboard and clicking down, where this XY texture here goes into B, and we have missed out certain aspects from up at the top just because I forgot they were relevant. So we're going to get a lerp here at the end here, alpha plugs in here. Now we want a vector 3 param here, where we just set this last value to 1, plug that into A, put that there, put it above it for a minute. Now we are going to need to go back into Fmodel, because I forgot that we are going to need white rock custom normal here. So you're going to save this texture. I already have it. I will save it again just to make sure it's the right one. Then come back into the packages folder with this texture here, and we're going to grab it in here. I forgot we were going to need this texture. It is my bad that we didn't do this earlier. Now come back into here. We can come back into the function really quickly. This normal is not going to be plugged in. We're going to get a texture sample with this texture in it. We're going to plug in the UVs. And we're just going to get an output of gravel normals here. this is not in the original function, this is just to make it easier for us here. I'm going to plug this into B. And we can do this, grab the here and plug that into A. Right, we need to come down and we need to comment this out as, I believe it is, yeah. Change it from comment to rock steep. I'm going to come underneath this here now. I'm going to get a vertex, normal, WS again, we used one before. I'm going to get a mask by the blue channel. We are then going to use that as an alpha in a lerp up here. The two values here. Going to get two of these of 5 and -4 in the respective top and bottom spots. We are then going to get an add node with a value of 0.8 being added here. And then that is going to be a clamp at the end there. So we're going to move this here. We're going to comment this as steep rock angle blend. Just going to put that there. And now this is going to plug into the two alphas that we've got here and here. And then from the first lerp at the top here, we are going to grab a divide by 1.5. And we're going to get a saturate node. It may seem weird because we haven't actually desaturated it, but we're going to get another component mask, this one with RGB, and below that another component mask with just A for the alpha channel. And then we're going to grab our outputs from up here. So A will be plugged into the height output. Remember just to start previewing that one. That will be plugged into there. Now we're going to move the result out. We're going to get a set material attributes, which will be plugged into there. And we're going to need 5 on here, so we've got base color. We have already specular roughness, so we're going to quickly just delete that one. This one will be the opacity. Add another one, which will be normal. So height will get into opacity, base color into base color. We'll get 2 of these, we'll get 0.5 and 0.9 in this one, which will be specular and roughness. And then the normal, it's not quite done, but we're going to come to here. I'm going to grab a feature level switch, which will be plugged into the normal there. I'm going to just get a lerp, which will be plugged into ES3_1, where we lerp. We'll get the alpha from here. We lerp the XY texture into B. We get a vector 3 parameter, or vector 3. And set that to 1. You can hold 3 on your keyboard and click to get these. Plug that into the A. Put that there. And then, if we quickly preview the result, that is our rock function finished. Just prove the height again. There we go. And now, if we come back into our Athena environment landscape folder, we can come into material finally, and come and create a material called m_Athena underscore terrain underscore master, which will be our main material. we're going to get some of these settings set up really quickly. So the first one, use material attributes. And I believe that's actually all that needs to be changed for this really quickly. Yep. That is all that needs to be changed right this second. So what we are going to do is we are going to test that our functions work properly together. So we are going to get 2 material function calls. Just duplicate them. First one will be for the grass function. Oh, actually, one more thing we do need to do before we can do this is we need to come into the utilities folder we created. And we are going to need to come in here and create another material function. Last one before the end of this video today will be mf_athena_slope_blend. This just keeps it nice and tidy. So this one is going to be called alpha. I'm going to make another one of these. This one will be called alpha_no contrast. And we need one more, which is going to be called alpha_color map. These are our 3 outputs. So this one, this no contrast one, we want to get a priority of 1, and the color map 1 of 2. We'll leave this for the normal alpha, the normal alpha as default. We're going to want to get a height lab for this one here. Alpha plugs into here, alpha no contrast into here. The height texture will have an input, a scalar input because it will be one channel, called height, and then multiply. That will come into our height texture. Just what's erroring this out currently. And there will be a height multiplier. So get another input, function input here. So put the sort priority as 2. Call it height multiplier. If I can spell it correctly, as a scalar. Just like that. And we're going to set the preview value thing here, and we're going to put in a preview value of 0.1 with a scalar node there. The transition phase up here. For this section, we're going to first of all just create a clamp so we can plug that in there so we don't forget. And for this, we're going to get another vertex normal, and then we're going to mask it with the blue channel. We're going to make it an absolute, and then it will be multiplied. We plug the multiply into the clamp there. And we'll multiply it by the transition multiplier with the settings here. I've called transition multiplier a scalar value here, and use the preview value. We're going to create a preview value here of 0.975, and that will be plugged in there. The transition multiplier. And then we are going to just move this up here. We're going to make the contrast a static variable of 5. There we go. And we will need another height lap, which we're not going to use for a while, but we will need at some point. This up here with the contrast at 5, the height texture also being from this multiply, and the transition phase coming down here to it. We are going to add, and we are going to need to use the MPC folder. So come back to landscape MPC, come in here, material, material parameter collection. We call it MPC underscore landscape. Now, when it comes to this, I'm going to leave two copy pastes, or two links to two copy pastes into on a Google Drive, where you copy the one for the scalar parameters, and then you will paste. Oh, alright. Back in here now. I will not leave a copy paste for this. I will leave the U asset for the MPC landscape on a Google Drive in the description. So when you get that, let me just show you what you would have to do. So you would come to wherever your UEFN projects are stored. For me, I have a Fortnite project folder in my documents. You come into it here, go into plugins, the name here, content, and then you can come into Athena, environments, landscape, and then our MPC folder, and paste in this MPC landscape USAT in here. And then all you have to do is, if you come to MPC folder, just right click, resave all, then it will be completely valid for you. So we can now go back into, I need to remake the material really quickly. Because it caused me to crash when I tried to paste in these things. So we'll come back into our slope blend. I think I hopefully still have it. No, let me just, I'll be right back with you guys. I'm just going to quickly get back to the stage where we were at. So right, now I'm back with you. I'm just going to plug the alpha into the column map here. So we've got back to where our add was, we've got everything else here. So we're going to search for a collection parameter here. I'm going to come in and select the MPC landscape and search in here. I'll look for the, where is it, color map transition bias here, and plug that in here. And that is our slope blend. And now we will use our landscape material, we will create our test landscape material in the main one. So we're going to call the slope blend, we'll leave that over here for a minute. We're going to another function call, and it will be for our grass material function here. And then we'll do another function call for our rock function here. So our grass one, we're going to want to, let me see here. We're going to want a matte layer blend standard in here, which will be plugging straight into that. So the base material is going to be, just for now, the result from this, and the top material, the result from this. The alpha here of here. Now the this does need some input values. Let me just figure out what they are. We have them here somewhere. Let me see what they are. They are top for the transition multiplier in here. So we've got 1 and 0.1 into transition multiplier, height multiplier, and then the height texture is just out of the grass here. Now you can see here we have got a base material of just the grass and the rocks. The rock is not completely finished here. We have some other things that we can do, but that requires other material functions, which we are not going to do just yet. This is for our test, and that is the end of the first video in this tutorial series to recreate the Athena material. I hope you have enjoyed following this tutorial, and I can't wait to do the next one for you guys, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.